Welcome to Switchboard, where we explore authentic leadership, creativity, and the power of connection. I'm Josh McDonald, your host. To kick things off, I want to tell you about a guy named Jerry. And if you could imagine with me, an older man around 80s, 90s, and he sits next to you, and he leans in close to your ear and says, "Can you hear me? I have something to tell you." And then he says something very simple. "Josh, listen to your wife." I didn't, and I wish I had. Most recently, my wife has had some of the best questions, some of the questions that have caused me to think not just for a minute, but for days, for months, for years. And so I thought it only great to start each episode with a question from Pam. I hope you enjoy it. The question for today: what is causing you to feel the most alive lately?
Just living life, every single breath, every single moment it keeps me so present that I love it. So experiencing life in this way helps me look at life completely different than the way I used to look at it before. I used to look at it from thoughts, all the thoughts that are driving my day, everything that I did, everything I'm expecting. Those are things that are really driving my entire day, and I was lost in them. But now I live right now, and because of it, I'm given this gift where I can just think up anything and just go with it. It's almost like dreaming constantly.
That's wonderful. I know I didn't even prep you for that question, but wow, what an answer. I'll go ahead and give my answer to that too. I think for me, ever since, as noted in just the why of why I do Switchboard,
Yeah.
I want to engage life. And I've wasted a lot of time in my life not engaging it.
Yeah.
Like I said, being on autopilot. And I tell you, anything that makes me feel alive, that's what I want to spend my time doing. I have a set of helpful things and non-helpful things.
Yeah.
If it's not helpful, I don't want to do it. The rhythms in the morning are my favorite. What makes me feel most alive is when I have a candle on. Nothing else is, lights are out, and I'm just sitting with my thoughts and meditating.
I love that. Me too. Like in my meditations, I have 5 different types of meditations that I do. But there's some where I just completely get lost in nothingness. Silence, listening to silence and looking into the darkness of just one spot that I choose. And that's it. Just disappearing in that for however long it takes until I wake up again. And it's not that I'm asleep. It's just that I'm concentrating on nothing. And being in this unknown for me is something that I can't explain, because it's not something that you're seeing, but it's something that's channeling a whole bunch of intelligence that you don't have access to consciously. Like right now, it's there. You can't see it, you can't feel it, but it's working. And I feel like whenever I connect with it, because I can connect with it at any point in the day or night, it's working. And it changes the entire perspective of life. And I can totally relate with you when you mentioned that with your candlelight and your thoughts and your meditation, and that being in many ways your most sacred moment in a day. I appreciate that because I'm seeing myself in that thought process.
That's amazing. I will say it's also because that my kids aren't up yet. Well, there's many ways we can start and jump into this conversation. I thought let's start with a quick overview of what consuming carbon does and why it exists.
Yeah. So consuming carbon is a combination of so many things. Number one, I'm a philanthropist. I'm a farmer. We've been farming for decades in Kenya. And we've been helping schools, especially we founded a girls' school in Wamunyu, Kenya, which is a girls' high school in a place where girls were not able to go to high school because of the proximity of schools for them to walk to. So we founded one, and it's called Baikini Girls High School. So we graduated our first class last year. But then now becomes the problem of, hey, how do they get jobs? How does the community get empowered? How do we create opportunities for them? And how do we do that in a way that we're very comfortable? So we looked last year and we were looking around the farm, and my father-in-law was just sitting there and saying, hey, you see this bamboo that's growing over here? We have this bamboo on our farm called the Dendrocalamus asper, which grows pretty tall, about 15 meters high. So pretty tall. Yeah. And you look at this bamboo and you can use it for so many things. You can use it for wood, you can use it for charcoal, you can use it for, ornaments and things like that, right? So it has so many uses, but it sequesters carbon dioxide like nothing else. It's just this machine of just consuming, essentially sequestering carbon dioxide much better than a eucalyptus tree, grevillea tree, which are some native plants that we have growing on our farms. So when we were just talking, we're like, hey, this could be a cash crop. Bamboo as a cash crop. And we were like, yeah, let's explore that a little bit more. And we explored it, and we found that, KEFRI, which is the Kenya Forestry Research Institute, which is tied to the Ministry of Forestry in Kenya, is trying to solve that problem. And they just released a paper last week that's with them and Elsevier, which is, I guess, based out of the Netherlands, stating the benefits of agroforestry with bamboo, specifically the Dendrocalamus asper, the Dendrocalamus giganteus, which is another bamboo species. And we're like, we know this is a solution to the carbon markets. If we can come up with like a scientific way to back this up, which is just what happened, then we can do agroforestry and improve upon the communities, improve upon degraded lands, create economic opportunities for these neighbors of ours in Kenya, and have a business. So we started consuming carbon knowing that we're going to work on degraded lands, knowing that we're going to provide economic opportunities by employing hundreds, if not thousands of people in Kenya and sub-Saharan Africa, but also understanding that our customers could be those who need hardwood or need wood products that are coming from our farms. And additionally, for the national climate goals that Kenya has, for the volunteering carbon markets that a lot of companies who are polluting into the greenhouse gases that are really like heating up the earth, we could help offset those in the carbon markets with our bamboo, thus consuming carbon corporation.
That's fantastic. I mean, to me, wow, from the high school, right, to seeing a need, then seeing something that was there, yeah, right? And saying, okay, wow, this could not only serve a need, meet something. Wow, that's fantastic. Motivation. I mean, the next question, and you can expound on it if you'd like. I feel like you touched on it a little bit. But what first drew you to focus on carbon consumption and climate action? Do you want to expand on that any more than you already have?
Yeah, I mean, it's a need. We need to heal the earth.
Yeah.
So if you look at Kenya, for example, we would say that statistically about 70 to 80% of Kenya is degraded lands. We have cut wood over time for hardwood, for charcoal, and for other uses, right? And we continue to do so without replenishing.
Yeah.
So we are creating deserts from places that were ecosystems where wild animals, worms, and all these other creatures really thrived. And those are being left barren. So like if you take a Google Maps and just kind of zoom into Kenya, you'll see that most of it is degraded. Whereas if you did it only 40 years ago, you would see that most of that was green. So why not turn that into green? So that's where it starts. So you're turning degraded lands into ecosystems, into forests. And you're just doing that slowly, just one by one, and being able to look at it and then say, hey, do you know these green farms, these agroforests that are bamboo with some biodiversity of, say, local crops and additional trees that are from those areas? Do you know that this forest is sequestering so much carbon? So like now, if you're looking to offset, if you're a responsible organization in the West, as an example, and you need to offset, we can show you that from the time we started, through data analytics and everything that we're using to monitor this work, to show you that we are showing you transparently, this is how we're sequestering carbon dioxide that you can offset and we can then put that in the market, and you can purchase it, and you can just follow along on that story. So you become part of this kind of like web of forestry, economic development, but then also responsibility to healing the planet together. That's how we came into the carbon market space, because for us, we're just farmers. At the bottom line, we're just farmers. But we know, because we're healing the planet and there's programs that are actually measuring these and there's companies that can benefit from it, we're like, hey, this could also be in the carbon markets. And that's how we landed upon that.
That's phenomenal. Was there a pivotal moment or experience that shaped your journey with consuming carbon?
I got laid off.
Yeah.
So when I got laid off, everybody was like, so what's your next move? I said, I'm starting a company. And everyone was like, you're going in this market? Are you crazy? Where's the money? You know, how are you going to do it? People were just trying to say, don't do it. Go back and continue on with the technology work you've been doing. You're very good at it. You've been doing it for almost 2 decades. You have implemented with some of the biggest companies in the world. You know, like I've worked with SAP, I've worked with GE, you know, I've worked with companies like Sapient. I was recently in oncology data analytics using AI to show data analytics and how it helps improve the quality of care for cancer patients. For the last 9 years, that's what I did, right? Very passionate about everything I've done in the technology space. But now imagine if you take the farming experience, you take the technology experience, and then you take that I am natively from Kenya, right? I live in the community itself, and you put me back in there with all these resources in the West, helping my own people that I speak their language, I live in their community, and we've grown up together. I'm the guy for it. So every naysayer was looking at me saying, you're going to fail. You're going to be, you know, your family is going to be homeless. Like I was getting everything. I'm still getting all that. We're still a startup. You know, that's the truth of the matter. And people are really pushing back on this big effort to heal the planet. But instinctively, I know what we're doing. And what we're doing is the right thing. And we have a team that's slowly forming that now we are like 4 in the leadership team, but 4 people who are very well versed in the different roles that we are playing in the organization. And we're going for the big companies and we're working with them to make this change. We're self-funded, you know, so obviously it's a pain when you look at the accounts. But then we know where we're going, and that's where, you know, speaking to folks like you and sharing this message, you know, we're also appealing for some support, at least financially, because from a plan perspective, if someone is sitting with us and we're walking this journey with them, it's a significant journey.
Zeke, I really admire everything you've said so far. You know, one of the things that I've been thinking through, I'm in sales personally, in tech sales, and I have been for the last 10 years. One of the things that has really made a huge impact on me is understanding that the best way to build relationship, the best way for me to generate revenue for my company is by having a heart to give rather than take.
Yes.
In every conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not here to make myself look good. I'm here to grow.
Yeah.
And I'm here to provide that opportunity for other people to grow as well.
Absolutely.
This is phenomenal. I see completely that your heart is to give rather than take in this scenario.
Thank you.
Who or what has influenced your approach to environmental issues?
Well, my family, we've been farming for quite some time. So my dad has been an orange farmer and mango farmer for as long as I can remember. My uncle is a conservationist, so he's sitting probably anywhere between 60,000 to 100,000 acres of conservation land in Kenya, right? So these folks are literally doing it, right? I'm a small farmer, you know, I'm sitting on 64 acres. So, and I'm looking to purchase more land, my wife and I. So I'm just following the fabric of why am I here? What am I doing in this world that's going to leave this world a better place? Period. You know, like if no one remembers me in the future, what are they going to experience that at least help put together? And that for me right now is planting forests, trees, tree cover, even if it's on a farm, even if it's a farm that's 100 acres, 1,000 acres, or more. That's a lasting mark on that soil that we have improved from degraded land to good land where people can actually see an ecosystem come in, animals can thrive, worms can come back, the water table is rising because the bamboo rhizomes and root systems. So this is clumped bamboo. So for those who are listening and saying bamboo is an invasive species, the bamboo species that we're looking at are the clumped bamboo, which essentially just grow within a cluster. So think of a tree, but then all the bamboo shoots all coming from the same rhizome within the same area. So they're non-invasive. So imagine seeing that, but seeing that in rows and rows and rows, as tall as they can be. And that's the mark that I left in the world while I'm in the soil.
Wow. That's amazing. I know my kids are going to ask, is there, just curious, this is wasn't planned, but is there any difference between bamboo that grows here versus bamboo that grows in Kenya?
Yeah, there's so many species of bamboo. You know, there's bamboos that grow out of Africa. There's bamboos that grow out of Asia. There's bamboos that grow out of, it's similar to grapes. You know, like you have the grapes that make the red wine, the grapes that make the white wine. You know, there's grapes from Bordeaux. There's grapes from, you know, different areas in Europe that have come into the U.S. So think of it that way, right? There's so many various species of bamboo. And they grow, some grow very thin, some grow like, they spread. Bamboo is a grass at the end of the day, right? So there's so many various species of bamboo. And if you get into the bamboo game, you'll find that like in cultures like Japan, they use bamboo 100% for, you know, anti-aging. You can eat the bamboo shoots, and some of them are really good for anti-aging. You can use the bamboo colms, you know, for hardwood. You know, some of the Dendrocalamus giganteus wood is harder than steel. You know, its tensile strength at maturity is harder than steel, which means you can use it for piping, water piping. You can use it for telephone poles. You can use it for hardwood production. It's harder than ebony.
Wow.
Right? So there's so much. So yeah, I would recommend that they dig deeper into bamboo, and you'll find it's a fascinating grass.
It sounds like a Saturday event with my kids.
Yes.
That sounds good. We have some bamboo in our backyard that they play with. They use for various purposes like, you know, ninja fighting and that type of stuff.
Yeah, you can get very creative with bamboo. You can create so much.
So on to mission and impact, what's the core mission of consuming carbon, and how do you measure success?
Yeah, so consuming carbon, we're taking degraded lands and then turning those into agroforests where we are, you know, essentially creating a canopy. But with that, you're creating employment opportunities. You're improving upon the economy within those areas. And some of the products that you get out of it, number one is carbon sequestration, which then helps in the volunteer carbon markets. It helps with the national climate goals of Kenya and other sub-Saharan African countries. But then for us, you know, it also provides products like hardwood and other byproducts of bamboo that we'll be working on. So, you know, there's multiple products you can make out of bamboo, like paper, clothing, and such. So it creates multiple ways as an organization to come up with revenue streams that are providing all these economic opportunities as well as creating forests.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What is...
And then how you measure. So there's multiple ways to measure that. So there's satellite. So we have memorandums of understanding with companies that provide satellite monitoring. And they look at it from pictures that they take, 2D and 3D photos. And they can tell you, you know, based on that day that they took the picture, give you a 3D view of it, and then also give you the conditions of that day. So we can give you like pinpoint data on the growth of these bamboo colms. And then additionally, the KEFRI, which is the Ministry of Forestry in Kenya, so this is the Kenya Forestry Research Initiative, they've come up with different formulas on this paper that they just published for bamboo forests and bamboo farms as a cash crop. So we'll be using those formulas to look at the For example, the height of the bamboo and the thickness of the stem give you a calculation that can give you the density of how big how that bamboo is doing. So we can measure that, and they're going to be essentially our validators of how we're doing on the growth of the farms.
Thanks for sharing that. Can you share a recent project or initiative that you're particularly proud of?
So right now, because we're essentially starting up, I was just in Estonia, in Tallinn, Estonia. I was invited there by the ambassador of Estonia to Kenya. And what I was trying to do is create partnerships. And these partnerships are to help us be able to monitor using technology and artificial intelligence on how we are doing on these bamboo forests. And there we got to meet companies out of Germany that are going to be doing some of our camera work on the farms. So they're doing some work in degraded lands and erosion and landslides in Rwanda right now. So they're looking to join us in Kenya in July to just see how we are setting up in Kenya, so they can set us up in a way that we are helping the soils, because bamboo does a very good job of kind of bringing the soil together and reduces erosion and degradation of lands. And then we met with another company that's launching satellites they're launching satellites in 2028. And we signed a letter of intent with them to where now we know that as they launch their satellites, we're going to be one of the primary organizations that they work with to do their monitoring with these satellites that are kind of being launched out of the EU. And then we also got to meet with representatives from Germany, Botswana, Rwanda, all of whom find our projects very appealing. And these are governments and also individuals that we want to work with as we scale our operation. So at our young age as an organization, we are broadly setting ourselves up to be in the global space from day one. So this, to us right now, is one where we have come out with about 3 letters of intent, a memorandum of understanding, connections directly with the Estonian government, connections with the Germans, connections with Rwanda, connections with Burundi, and then building upon our connections in Kenya as we live here in the US. Huge.
Makes me want to just clap and applaud.
We're working.
The fact that you're gathering this much support, it's not only a need, but people are actually recognizing that and joining what you're doing.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
If that's not feedback, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That's fantastic. How do you define consuming carbon, and why is this concept important right now?
Yeah, so consuming carbon, the name itself should tell you everything. We are sequestering carbon dioxide by planting our forests. But then when you go to the community, the way the community would define it to you is we're good employers with integrity and trust and community focus. When you speak to a company that's buying the carbon credits from consuming carbon, they trust their source because there's data analytics tied to it. We can prove it to you in near real time with data analytics. When you speak to a government, we are collaborative. We're listening. We are partnering with them. When you speak to my son, he'll be like, I know what we're doing because it's helping my future. When you speak to students, they're part of it because we're bringing them into what we're trying to do in their communities. So consuming carbon essentially should be a community-based organization that is also kind of addressing another need in the commercial space, which is wood. So instead of cutting hardwoods that are scarce now in the world, why not grow it as a grass and supply globally to the IKEAs, to the Ashley Furniture, to all these folks who need it, Lowe's and the hardwood. If you try to go buy bamboo hardwood right now, you'll find that it's not only very high quality, but it's also premium. So imagine if you're the supplier of that and can source it from the time it was planted to the time it got to the store. That's consuming carbon to you.
That's fantastic. Wow. So what sets consuming carbon apart from other organizations tackling similar issues?
Yeah. So one thing we've noticed with some of the organizations doing something similar is they're coming into Africa and leasing land from local landowners. So think of local farmers who are using their land to subsist. And what we're noticing in social media currently, actually this week, is that people are being taken advantage of in a bad way. And this is not, it's not a practice we don't like seeing this in our communities where someone comes and says, I will lease your land for about $3 per acre per year for 30 to 40 years, and you can't use it while I have it. Whereas this land is everything that this person has. But the way they tell it to you is almost deceiving, so that's a practice that we're seeing that's being employed by companies that, essentially cannot purchase land. And they're using it to kind of take advantage of the farmers in the language that they're using to sign these contracts. That piece right there is something that is going to be fought against, because you have to have community engagement to successfully implement some of these projects. So the competition is doing a good job, obviously, of doing the work once they have the land, but in how they're acquiring the land, it's questionable. But then in terms of how they are delivering on their carbon credits, I think they're doing a great job. Like we are learning from a lot of the competition out there and how they're kind of making sure that they're following the global policies on how you do, carbon sequestration, how you monitor it, how you then report on it, and how you make sure that your buyer trusts what you're sharing. I think they're doing a fantastic job there. I think the global way of making sure that there's transparency in this, to avoid things like greenwashing, that part, I believe all the organizations that are doing it, especially in Africa, are doing a great job. And that's because their customers demand of it from them. Otherwise, there would not be customers. So other than that one particular consideration, that I would recommend that you create best practices for the actual farmers that you're working on their land with. I would pick up a lot from a lot of our competitors, and I would say in many ways, if there's a way that we can partner with them, because this is one of those things where partnership goes a longer way. In Africa, we believe that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. We want to go together in a lot of these. So like if you want to do business in Africa, we say do it with an African, because that's how you will get to know how things are done well. And we encourage that. We know the lay of the land there. We're from there. We do a good job there, but we're also looking out for our people. And we want to make sure that we are addressing a lot of this.
Oh, man. I mean, fantastic response. To me, you're inviting me into this story. Already I'm connecting some dots. This is your home.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit of a couple other things you mentioned last we spoke. How does Just Help Africa, and maybe give a brief description of what Just Help Africa is, and Munyao art.
Yeah.
How does that fit into the mission of consuming carbon, and how do they enhance its impact?
Yeah. So in the climate sustainability space, especially in legislature, there's a requirement, for example, in the Kenya law, if you're in the carbon markets, whatever you receive in terms of payment from the carbon markets, 25% of it has to go back to the community. So how do you prove that, right? Other than, building schools and doing all that, people can play around that number. But my friend Tunji, my friend Eze, who are both from Nigeria that live in Charlottesville, where we are right now, and we started Just Help Africa in May of 2022. And the goal of Just Help Africa was to just help, specifically in education and clean water. So Bikini Girls High School, we just completed building their lab last year, right? From donations that are coming from Charlottesville. So Just Help Africa is a 501c3 that's based out of Charlottesville that's currently doing work in sub-Saharan Africa focused on Kenya and Nigeria. So we're doing school and education in Kenya, and in Nigeria, we're building wells. So we have built 2 wells so far. Each well is providing clean water to people who have never seen clean water before. So they have access to clean water now, and these communities are anywhere between 7,000 to 10,000 people per. In Nigeria right now, Just Help Africa is also renovating. We just broke ground this week on a school of 600 students that has only 2 classrooms, and the rest of the classrooms are completely degraded, like trees growing through the floors and no roofs, no windows, nothing. So we are renovating that school, and by the time we go launch it in August, it will be completed. All classrooms. So we are renovating 7 different buildings, building a toilet, building an administrative block, everything. So that's just help Africa. That is part of my passion. So like my ethos is, art, fun, and philanthropy. And then you can throw in the farmer and everything else that comes with consuming carbon. But in the philanthropy, that's where Just Help Africa shines. So we raise our money in the States, and then we do the work in Africa, and then we show photos, videos, thank you dinners, and everything to the people who are helping us on the impact that we are creating. So far we've impacted well over 22,000 people in sub-Saharan Africa. Then Munyao.art touches on my gift from the powers that be, which is art. I can paint, but I paint out of the nothingness we talked about earlier. Like I have these dreams of different things, and I can see different forms, and when I get on a canvas, I just go with it. So for example, right now I'm working on a painting that's about, call it 5'5" by 3 feet, right? And the middle of this painting is a Porsche 911 Targa 4 GTS, right? So this is the car that I plan on having. And once I get this car, I'll drive it to its last day, which is my last day. So that painting right now, even though it's in its infancy, is going to transform in a way that I cannot explain to you right now. But when you see it, you'll never forget it. So I have over 80 pieces that are pretty large paintings that I've been working on under Munyao.art. And you can find them on Munyao.art. And whenever I find time, I blog about them. I tell stories about them. I do that on YouTube too with my son. We tell stories. We have an organization called Iced Cacti, which is essentially my son's concept of us telling the stories of my art. So he and I work together, and we do it on YouTube. We are going to do more content, but it tells that ethos again. My son and I kind of built this ethos because we both believe in it, and we love it. We love being in that space. He's not a creator of art, but he's a charismatic young man who's very passionate about life. And I want to continue helping him find his calling or his joy or whatever drives his daily moments through a lot of these things that we're collaborating on today.
You got me with the arts, and good on you to take that and use the gift that you've been given to remember, and to remember those dreams that you're having. For me, it's writing music. I've written maybe 300 to 400 songs since COVID, and again, it's just this thing that, hey, if you find something that's helpful or something that moves you, or something that makes you feel alive, to return and remember that thing. Yes. Otherwise, wow, what a miss.
Yeah.
When you learn a lesson, but then you find yourself continuing to have to learn the same one. Many different reasons for it. That's cool.
Something that I encourage others to do. The one thing that occurred to me is in high school, one teacher told me that I was not an artist. Like I should just give up art and just focus on like architecture or something that is more kind of defined with a career. And I knew my calling was art, but then I gave up art at that point. And not up until 2018 did I go back to do a painting on the wall of my garage that I realized that I'm not too bad at this thing. And then COVID happened. So from 2018, then COVID gave me this opening of starting to paint. So if you feel that calling that is calling you the same way you found your music, right? And you don't go for it right there, you're missing an opportunity every single time you think about it. So when you think about it, just do it. Just start. And everything else will come together. Just start, and that's like the hardest thing. In business even. The hardest thing in business is just starting. Yeah. The day-to-day activities, those become like just part of the day. They will never stop. But now, when you're doing exactly what you love to do, nothing is that difficult. It's just a lot.
Well said. Well said, Nikki. That was, yes, absolutely. How do you see your work impacting individuals, communities, or businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question. We plan to impact them all positively. Number one, for the people who are looking for opportunities in Wamunyu, Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya, in Nigeria, consuming carbon is coming to farm in these areas where we have land. And if we can provide opportunities for people who provide the skill and cover the roles that we're looking for, the goal is to employ hundreds, if not thousands, right? So employment for the communities, which then improves on the economic benefits. But then also for those who are looking for, us to transform the land, to improve upon the land, the degraded lands. That's huge impact on the country's flora, fauna, and also kind of just improving upon the ecosystems, the weather patterns. Because imagine if you look at a river right now, like we have a farm by this river called Athi River, and Athi River has these lands called the riparian lands. Riparian land is the land between the river or the riverbed and the land beside it, right? So we want to improve upon the riparian land because that is owned by the government, so that's public land, and bring the river back into its natural flow state. When you do that and you plant bamboo across on the riparian lands, the bamboo holds the river to its course and improves the entire movement of the river, restoring it to where it used to be. And the water flow is so much better because the bamboo also lifts the water table, so there's more water flow. So there's a lot that we can do there in terms of that type of impact, because that also impacts the communities. And then lastly, there's going to be ban on certain types of wood across the world. Like in Kenya and most of sub-Saharan Africa, you cannot legally right now cut an ebony tree or mahogany tree. Some of these hardwoods that have been going for the last several hundred years, it's illegal to cut them, which means that hardwood is going to be a very scarce resource. But we need wood for so much. So why not be that producer that is literally impacting those who use wood, like this table we're kind of using right here? Would you imagine if that came from one of our farms, and the partner that made it, we can tell you the story, and we can tell you the story of this piece of wood from where it came from to where it is. Being able to tell that story for the person who's actually selling it, let's say you're the one who's selling it to the end user, that's a very powerful story, because they can tie that back to climate, they can tie that back to economic empowerment, they can tie that back to sustainable harvesting of wood, but then they can also tie it back to just the goodness of humanity, right? So the impact that we are creating is significant globally.
It is. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced in building and running Consuming Carbon?
Yeah, well, another good question. Funding is difficult. Right now, we had a few friends and family come through and say, hey, I'll pitch in a couple thousand, right? But to run something like this, you need to buy a lot of land, a lot of degraded land especially. So you need quite a significant amount of money. And raising capital has been quite a challenge, because we're talking about raising capital for a company that's working in sub-Saharan Africa, developing country. And a lot of people are not very familiar with these economies, and they relate those to corruption and a lot of bad practices, and they fear the loss of losing their money. And we are here to say, hey, we're de-risking this, number one, by purchasing the land and things like that, and then planting and being responsible in how we report back. We are working on forward-facing contracts and things of that nature. So funding and raising capital has been difficult, even though we're making some strides towards it. So that's number one. Number two, kind of having a team that's focused, developing a team that's truly focused on the goal has been a challenge, because we've tried this maybe 2 or 3 times where I bring on folks who are experts in the different fields that we need to have roles played in, and they come in with the understanding of what they know up until this point, but then not quite open to understanding how things work in different markets outside the United States, for example, right? So cultivating a team that is understanding of how things are working in sub-Saharan Africa, in tree growth, in the climate game, and all these other things has also been a challenge. However, I don't think you can be successful without a few failures, right? So through these learnings, we have now gotten at least 4 strong leaders in our organization. We have a team of support, including legal, agroforestry, government support in country. And now we're going to Kenya next week, where we're going to have a lot of meetings with KEFRI, which is the Forestry Research Initiative, and the government and the local leaders there, the chiefs and the community, to kind of start de-risking a lot of these folks that we're working with early on by engaging the community, engaging the government, and then also kind of sharing these outputs with potential investors. So these are some of the challenges that we face so far.
What's a specific obstacle and how you overcame it?
I think the naysayers is a big obstacle because it kind of trips you up. Every time you kind of let it get to you, it slows down your momentum, because if you allow for that to be a hindrance, it becomes a hindrance. So I believe that the focus on the clear goal has been the one factor that's kept us going and focusing only on that goal. You know, like I was painting a lot. I was doing a lot of the philanthropy work. I was trying to do everything. And, you know, now really just focusing on consuming carbon has really simplified what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis versus trying to tackle everything. And how I've managed that is by delegating better. You know, so like having somebody kind of run with the, you know, Just Help Africa, for example, reducing the amount of work I was doing there, because that's work that we're doing at no pay. You know, we're just doing this out of passion. And then on the Munyao.art and Ice Cacti, you know, those are being run by somebody other than myself. So that way I can focus on consuming carbon. And then we think consuming carbon, we have to be very specific, just the bamboo, because in the carbon markets, you can get really lost with the different ways in which you can do the sequestration. So finding land and things like that is where we're focused. So yeah, clear focus has been the way that I've been able to kind of deal with it.
Yeah, that's something I think all of us struggle with, is focus. And thank you for sharing that. It helps me grow and learn, because just last night, I'm talking to my wife, and you know, we're just commenting on the fact that when I focus in on something, it's like I can't see anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm locked in until I get that done, or you know, I'm ready to move on to the next thing. But what's interesting is your attention, right, goes to where your interest is.
Yes.
And the idea of focusing, even if it's painful.
Yeah.
Right? You want to do all of these things, but what I'm hearing you say is, I've learned to focus in on this one thing, and you've done that by delegating.
Yeah, it's very important, because I believe the best way to live life is to enjoy everything you're doing. Because your soul is trying to live through you, and the way it understands how you're living is by your feeling, right? So if my feeling is joy, bliss, and whatever, it feels that this is the thing we need to do. So then it pumps me up to do that. So everything I'm doing, even though it might seem difficult or something new that I have a learning curve, it's exciting because I know where we're going with it.
Yeah.
Right? So then when you put that focus on this one thing with that excitement, with that openness and that drive, then you can get there much, much faster. And that's how we've gotten here in just, 6 months.
Yeah. That's cool. So I was thinking back, you talked about the first part of your career in technology, and you know, now in this industry, I'm curious, are there any innovative solutions or technologies you've adopted that have made a difference?
Yeah. On a day-to-day basis, we're using 8 different AI.
Okay.
So the work of At Consuming Carbon, we're probably doing the work of maybe 20, 30 people, between 4 people, because of AI. So administrative tasks, project management tasks, like meeting notes and follow-ups, those are all done by AI, right? Um, Idea creation, research, in-depth kind of follow-ups on specific items that we are unfamiliar with are simplified by AI. This whole document that was written by Kefri and Elsevier, I read through the whole thing through an AI that essentially researched the whole thing and then read it to me like a podcast, right? So I can learn something that is very, very deep in 17 minutes versus multiple hours of trying to cram stuff. All my meetings, when we're in meetings, on not this one, but I have a notebook that's taking notes for me, and it essentially puts them in a way that not only do I understand everything we discussed, but also creates clear action items for me that another tool then picks up and reminds me of what I need to get done, right? So even in the monitoring of our farms, it's going to be the data that we get from the farm is going to be taken on by AI, which then visualizes it, puts it on an app, and as I'm just walking around, I can show you exactly where we are right now with a tree, a singular column of bamboo. So yeah, technology is everything. When it comes to the data analytics of Consuming Carbon, they're going to be super impressive. Why? Because we have the skill set to do it and the data to back it up with AI that's kind of making it make sense.
I think that's going to be helpful to a lot of folks, just understanding how you're processing through that. It's AI is definitely a conversation every enterprise is having, and how do we utilize it? And it can become, a web and hard to. But how did you decide on which AI you would use and those type things?
Well, I asked specialists. So I asked one guy who's an AI guru, what AIs are you using right now and why? Can you just tell me like 2, 3 AIs that I should be using? He came back with 9. And he showed me exactly how to use them. In Estonia, I went and spoke to an AI guru. We took a whole bunch of photos with him, but he spoke to us about this never-ending worker who's there 100% of the time, never takes sick leave, but then is always working on everything that you're looking to do. And he broke down like several different AIs that we can use for that. So using all these resources to our advantage. But one thing that we also need to emphasize is the work of AI demands a lot of energy. So every prompt that you put in there and that gives you back a response, that takes a significant amount of energy, which then is impacting on the carbon produced, and the offsets that are going out there. So like for us in the carbon space and the sequestration of the carbon dioxide, essentially you can say that part of it is to offset some of this technology work that's polluting the environment. And for those who are doing the same, this is something that you need to consider. There's a ton of energy that's creating pollution. Let's just simplify it to that. And we're the garbage disposal where the trees are essentially taking on the offsets of that.
Yeah. Well, and I see you as being a good steward, right, of the funds that are coming in, and of the people's time that you're working with.
Absolutely.
Reserving, some of the more 4 or 5 tier, right, actions that need to be done, critical actions daily, and letting AI, handle some of these things that are repetitive and reoccurring, so that you can actually focus even more.
Yeah, we like meeting with people face to face, talking to them, being able to address questions face to face, having meetings with the right people, making clear decisions, but then backing all that up with the AI.
What would you, and I always think about this because I'm seeking to bring value to anybody watching these.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to someone starting out in this space?
Find exactly what you love most and what you want to turn into a business that provides value to another. And then do nothing else but that.
No plan B.
Yeah, go for it.
I love that. I love that.
Do it because no one else is going to do it. If you have that idea and you know it's a groundbreaking idea or it's something that's going to create value for another person, why let another do it when you're the person who came up with the idea? It's yours. Develop it, grow it, and focus on nothing else.
Couldn't agree more. I've been going through Diaries of the CEO by Stephen Bartlett, and he's definitely a mentor from afar, definitely someone I look up to. And, all of these things, he goes through and he talks about the different laws. And, man, I'm just seeing you guys really knock it out of the park here.
I love his podcast. There's so many that I like. There's one he did with Simon Sinek that I really enjoy. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. I do catch myself, there. Like there's one that really opened me up to discovering being supernatural. So he, on the Diary of the CEO, interviewed Dr. Joe Dispenza, who kind of speaks about you being supernatural or kind of being the placebo, and you finding yourself by going inward. He talks about different meditations, but he just kind of speaks more about how powerful as a human being you are, right? But I discovered this through the Diary of a CEO. I'm like, how did that happen? So like this entire interview really changed my outlook on life, and it opened me up to many other books. So, I highly recommend for those who've not, watched the Diary of the CEO. I'm in complete agreement with you that in many ways it's a mentor platform where you learn a lot as a business person.
And just perspective alone.
Yeah.
I mean, right now I'm getting more perspective of the reason why this is important for me to not only think about it, but to consider with my wife. Like, how are we going to now be a part of that?
Yeah.
What are your hopes or goals for Consuming Carbon over the next couple of years?
So, the hope is, number one, we meet our mission. We plant the bamboo, we create the employment, we turn degraded lands into forests, but then we do it at scale. And we do it with the right partners. Everybody that we want to go along this journey with is somebody that we can trust, somebody that we collaborate with, and they are really the wind behind our sails, helping us move forward because we're doing the same. We're helping them out. It's one of those things where we are working collaboratively with every single person, be it someone who's an employee of Consuming Carbon, someone who's within the Consuming Carbon community, someone who's a customer of Consuming Carbon, either on the hardwood or the carbon markets. The governments, we want to be able to fulfill the mission with all these partners essentially feeling that they can walk this with us continuously for as long as we can go. Because I can see us being on 100,000 acres and thus just scratching the surface.
Wow. Are there any new collaborations or projects on the horizon you're excited about?
Yeah, there is one which I can't outline here, but it's a very big company once you get to find out who they are, that we're kind of going through the motions of the process of them looking at the carbon offsets, where they help us along the journey by buying the carbon credits ahead of time, but then they keep us accountable for how we're going about the process. So that's a big deal, but then it also takes a while to put together. So we will share that because it's going to be a big win for us if we get them successfully on. But then we're also looking for more partners. A lot of people are being responsible and they want to follow the Paris Treaty and they want to be able to offset the carbon that they are emitting into the environment. And we want to work with them. So we'd like to share this with everybody that's looking to be part of the journey.
I think I'm going to steal what you said earlier. Go fast, you'll go alone. And then you said, if you want to go far,
you go together.
Go together.
That's right.
Love that. Love that. How can listeners best support your mission?
Follow the mission. Learn more about the carbon markets. Learn more about the benefits of bamboo, especially the non-invasive bamboo. And reach out to us. Engage us however we can. We have a team that's excited to kind of work with you. And if you feel like, you're liquid enough and, you're an accredited investor, we are a US-based corporation based out of Delaware. We're open to your investment right now. Your investment allows for us to buy the degraded lands, to develop these degraded lands, to create economic opportunities, and then also to offer a product that's not only going to help a lot of folks on the ground in Kenya, but also going to be able to offset a lot of the hardwood cutting across the world and offset a lot of carbon credits that are going to be beneficial to those who need them.
It sounds like a few ways there that we can get
Right?
involved.
There's so much, yeah.
Yeah. What do you see as the biggest opportunities or challenges for your sector moving forward?
I think support. Like right now, climate sustainability is not a big deal in the United States. And the United States is a big player. You can cut a lot of wood here in the US, but what is that doing to the lands? How is that going to impact those areas where you've got the trees? The everything about the soil, everything about where those trees were, and everything those trees were supporting. So how do you replenish that? How do you advance that? America is going to be here for a long time, and the people of America, we love to see the flora and fauna outside our compounds. But imagine when you go out and you look at what used to be a forest now being degraded land, like what we're seeing in Kenya. So having the support of different governments in the climate sustainability space, we can do quite a bit. Having educating people around the benefits of just planting a tree or just doing something positive with nature is also going to be something that we'd highly encourage for people to consider. And then, being part of the movement, just do better for the earth is something that we'd like to highly encourage.
Yeah. How can we not all get on board with that?
Right.
Do better for the earth. Yeah. For the kids that are going to be succeeding us.
We need the earth. The earth doesn't really need us.
There it is. Is there anything, Zikki, what's in my mind, is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to share?
Check out my art.
Yeah.
Check out my art. You'll find that all my art actually is a personal collection. I don't sell it. The pieces that have been sold specifically to benefit nonprofits in their missions. So that's it. So check out the art, because in my art, you may find a piece that speaks to you. And if that piece speaks to you, tell us more about it. Like, what was that feeling? And share that with others, because my art is supposed to draw upon someone's perception of it. And there's people who will like it, there's people who will be naysayers around it, but there's one or two people that it may change and their perspective on art and artists that are not known. So I'm producing art, at least one piece a month, and my art is only getting bigger and bigger in terms of size. And why is that? It's because I'm enjoying the process so much more. So check out the art. Let me know what you think. It's all tied together. You'll see some art with bamboo on it. But check it out and let me know what you think.
How can listeners stay updated or get involved with Consuming Carbon?
Yeah, so we're Consuming Carbon on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, check out Consuming Carbon, the company. You can check out consumingcarbon.com. We're going to start posting on social media under Consuming Carbon, so you can look out for those. Or you can reach out directly to us. You can find me on Instagram. You can reach out on info@consumingcarbon.com. These are different ways in which you can reach us.
Zikki, thank you so much.
Dude.
This has been inspiring for me. This has helped me grow, especially on this topic. And I can't thank you enough. It's truly, truly impressive. And I want to thank you for listening. Yeah. Hey, your feedback is my biggest reward. And so I ask that you get involved. And I ask that you get involved in what Zikki's talking about here.
Yeah.
It's important things, and it's shaping the future, what you're doing, Zikki. Yeah. Just sit here and make some music.
anything.